Hi, this is Professor Don Patterson, and we're working through trying to set up our first half of the lobby for our Reversi game. In this third chunk of setting up the lobby, what I want to do is I want to add invite buttons when new players join the lobby. What that's going to look like is three different things I want to tackle. All client side. First, fixing up the HTML layout of lobby.html to accommodate these buttons. Then I want to add a button when a player joins using jQuery and JavaScript. And I also want to remove buttons when players disconnect. So let's see if we can take care of that. We're going to go to Visual Studio Code and look at lobby.html. All right, there's lobby.html. What we've got right now is a kind of nested row and column setup for our messages. And what I want to do is I want to add a section on the left where we can put our buttons that come in. So let's see, to do that, what I would like to do is to first let's adjust the way in which our messages are working. What I would like to do is I would like to have the messages show up above the input text, and then the responses come below the input text. So it's sort of like messages, entry, responses. So let me see if I can adjust that correctly first. All right, let's do that by coming up here and just adding a blank div that can hold our messages headline text here. So that'll move that above. And then let's take the place where we're putting our messages and let's make sure that that is below our input group there. Let's clean it up and make sure it looks okay. That looks pretty good. And let's just see how that looks. Let's run our, let's make sure we've got our server highlighted here. There's server. Let's run it. There we go. And let's go to our lobby. And there we go. Messages at the top, messages here, and then they show up below. Okay, I kind of like that. Okay, good. Now what we need to do is we need to create some space in lobby.html to hold our invite buttons. And holding our invite buttons is going to be, let's put a column to the left of this. So we'll put a column here, and we'll use up the remainder of our 12 grid columns. So we'll use 4 of them. That looks good. And we will say that this, we'll use the same weight as messages, and we'll put our players over here. And we'll create a div that we can have access to that will be the place where we will drop our new players in as they arrive. And we want it to be lined up in a particular way. We'd like it to be aligned, let's see, aligned to the end because we kind of want the buttons and the text to be close to each other. And we want the text to the right, and we'd like a little bit of spacing there. All right, so that'll be our placeholder for where we'll put our buttons. All right, and let's see if there's anything else I want to add here. Let's say I want these columns, I want them to collapse on small screens. So we're going to add the collapse on medium screens. We'll add that collapse there. And I think I want to pull off the buffering here. And I want to align items to the top because now that we have 2 columns, we want it to look a little different. All right, I think that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and see how it looks. Now, we're not really going to be able to see too much, but give it a shot. There we go. We've got players on the left and messages on the right. All right, so that takes care of some of our cleanup. Let's do a little bit of styling work as well. Let's come up here, and in addition to my join room response, I want to make sure that when people leave the room, we get the same color set up. So our left room response, I put a comma there, and make sure I can put my S in response. And the background color, let's use a little bit of a lighter gray, 247, 247, 247. That's a little bit lighter. And let's not make the margin quite so indented. Let's make it a, actually, let's not use the margin at all. And let's see, what else do I want to do? Let's make the chat message Let's get rid of the purple chat message. Let's just make it black. That'd be a little bit better. And let's see if there's anything else that I want to do. I want to actually have all the messages here be a particular color. So let's give that a message pane ID. And then let's up here in our styling, let's copy our header row and make it say message pane. And it's a ID, it's not a class. And let's make it just a little bit of a lighter green. A different color, but not, gosh, click, wait, there we go. There we go, maybe something like that. I don't know. Like I said, no graphic designer. All right, let's see what we've got. Reload it. There we go, that's a little bit better. And then if we see someone else leave the lobby, we want to make sure that join the lobby, and then if they leave the lobby, great, we have the same text color there. Great, so that's cleaning up our HTML, I think, a little bit. Now let's add buttons when a player joins. All right, so this is a little bit of work. We're going to go to main.js, and we're going to go to where we handle the join room response here. And this chunk right here, this is announcing in the chat that someone has arrived. So what we're going to do above this is we're going to add some code that puts the buttons in place. And let me get myself situated here. What we want to see, what we want to create is we want to create some, this is a comment, but what we want to create is some HTML that looks like this. It's going to be a nested row. And I'm using a template here. And then within that, we want our column. This is where our buttons are going to end up going. And we'll just use this for reference. And we'll have like the name of the person that arrived. That'll be our first one. And then in our second column, we're going to put a button. And what we want that button to look like is going to be button. It'll be type equal to button. And class equals to button primary. And then we want it to say invite. And that'll be the end of the button. And the end of the div. And the end of the div. Now this is just a comment, so it's not going to get all cleaned up, but give it a shot. Oh, my tired fingers. All right, so that's what we want to develop, and we want to develop that using our jQuery. So let's make a couple nodes. Let's make this outer one be node A, let's make this node be B, and this one be C. All right, so let node A equal, and we're just going to create it using our jQuery. All right, that'll be our first one. Okay, now we've got 3 nodes, and in order to make the first node look right, we're going to need to use an action called add class, and we'll add the class row to this one, and then we will add the class align items center so that it matches what we've got up there. And then we'll add the class, and this is one thing that's not clear exactly why we're doing this, but we're going to add a class that is the socket of the person that's joining so that we can find this element again. So this is tricky. We've got to make sure we have double quotes, socket underscore double quotes plus payload dot socket underscore ID. And that's it. And then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to hide that because we also want that to appear gracefully. All right, so for node B, what classes do we want to add to this one? Well, let's see. Node B, we want to add class column. And we want to add class text end. And we want to add the socket class here, the same socket class. So make sure to copy that and make it node B. And then we want to add the text that we want there. So we're going to append to that the text h4 in a string plus payload.username, so maybe Don, plus, and then the close h4 tag in a string. All right, looks good. All right, then node C, we need to add some classes to that. So for node C, we're going to add class column also. And we're going to add class text start because we want to align to the left so the button and the label are next to each other. We're going to go ahead and do the same socket work. Make sure we do node C, add the socket, socket.id. And then we're going to add an invite button. So we're going to have a helper function here, node C dot append. What are we going to append? We're going to say let button C equal make invite button. We need to make that function up. And we will append button C. And then we will attach node B to A. So this is where we make it hierarchical. We make it children. And then we will add it to our document object model. We will put it in the place where we've indicated players. Let's make sure we did actually indicate that. So I'm going to look in the HTML of our lobby for something that has the ID of players. Oh, here it is. Great. So we've got that ready to go. So go back to main. So into that players location, we are going to append node A, which has B and C attached to it. And then we're going to show node A. Node A dot show, come on, fingers, and fade. And we will do that over 1 second. And clean up. All right, and so the next thing and last thing we have to do is do our make invite function. So I'm going to come up here right above join room response is as good a place of any to put it, but after the log function, and I will create a function that is make invite button, and we need to return a button. All right, so to make it, we're going to make some new HTML. And what is a button going to have? Well, let's see, let's use double quotes and then the button tag and then type equals, and if we use single quotes, we don't have to escape it. Type button class equals btn space btn dash outline dash primary, and then single quote and the tag, say invite, and then a close button tag, and then okay, that doesn't need parentheses. That can just be an equals. And then we will say the new node equals, turn that into a node with jQuery, and then we'll return our new node. So that will make a button for us. Okay, I think that's it. So we've got our server running. We didn't change our server at all. So we come back here and we do a hard reload on our entry page. And we do a hard reload on our on the previous page. All right. And then we'll say, Don, join the lobby. Oh, very good. So we've got that joining the lobby, and then Patterson joining the lobby. Great. And we've got our invite buttons. Now, the only thing we need to do is we need to make sure that we don't put our own information up there. So if we see that we have our own socket coming in, we don't want to invite ourselves. All right, so let's fix that. So that's going to be in our join room response. So we'll come down here, and after we check to make sure that everything is okay with our payload, we'll say, we'll put a comment in here. If we are being notified of ourselves, then ignore the message and return comment. And so we can check that by saying if the payload.socket underscore ID triple equals socket.id, so if it equals our socket, then all we need to do is return. And then if we actually already have this player in our room, then we won't do anything either. So we'll create a variable called DOM elements, document object elements, and we will look for any elements that are present that have the class socket, single socket, underscore plus payload dot socket underscore ID. So we're looking for any elements that we are making, and then the comment is if we are being repeat notified, then return. The way we know we're repeating is if we already have these elements here. So if DOM elements not double equal to 0, then return. Okay, save that, and let's take a final look. Go back, do a hard reload, go back, do a hard reload. Don enters. Great, I don't show myself. Patterson enters. Not great. Let's see, everything go okay here? All right, something happened where I didn't see the player show up. So let's see where our bug is. And the bug is in join room response. It's not if DOM element's not equal to 0. It's if DOM elements dot length is not equal to 0. Let's try that. Go back and hard reload. All right, let's give it a little bit more space. Actually, let's make a third one. And let's see if we have space for even another one. All right, so we've got 3. We'll have Alfred join this one. We'll have Betty join this one. And then we'll have Charlie join this one. All right, great. So it's working really well. Alfred sees Betty and Charlie arrive. Betty sees Alfred and Charlie sees Alfred and Betty. We can say hello, and the message shows up for everyone. And someone else can say hello back, and that shows up for everyone. And then if someone leaves the lobby, well, let's see, Betty left the lobby and it didn't disappear. So let's, oh, that's because we didn't add that functionality. Okay, that was the last thing we had to do. Remove buttons when a player disconnects. Okay, so let's take care of that. When a player disconnects, we want their buttons to disappear. So we're going to go to the player disconnected method down here. And what we're going to do when the player disconnects is we're going to find all of the elements that are associated with their socket ID, and we're going to remove them. So we're going to do the same thing as far as checking if it is us or not. So we'll first say if payload.socket underscore ID equals us, triple equals us, then we're just going to return. We're done. And let's see, if there is some elements that are present, let's do that DOM elements bit again. If DOM elements equals, we're going to get a variable, and it's going to equal to anything that has a class of .socket underscore .payload .socket underscore ID. And if DOM elements .length is not double equal to 0, then we're just going to make them all go away. So DOM elements .hide, and we will fade them, and we will do it over half a second. All right, and that should be everything we need in order to have those elements disappear. So let's go back to our example. Make sure we're running the latest code. Come on now. Okay. Oh, the inspect doesn't open on those. Okay, let's try again. Alfred, Betty, and Charlie. Great. And now if Betty goes away, see Betty's icon disappears. And if Alfred goes away, here's Alfred, Alfred's button fades. And if Alfred comes back, Alfred shows up and Alfred joins the lobby and Alfred left the lobby. So that's great. All right, so that's everything that we wanted to take care of in the third of 3 chat room sets set up. And that gets us ready for the invite process to be complete. And I think that's going to be everything we need for this sequence of invite videos. Thank you for your attention.